All right, good morning, everyone. All right, I like the energy. Let's keep that cadence going. I'm Darcy Rideout. I'll be your host today for the seminar, the A.S.A.P seminar. I would like to thank you all for getting out of your beds, taking time off, whatever you did to be here. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank Valerie. I think she stepped out the room for giving me this opportunity to bring everyone together so that we can talk about something that is very near and dear to me and important to a lot of folks. Hopefully everyone in the room is going to be okay with getting through this discussion. It is a heavy discussion, but I will be sure to keep it a little light. If at any time you feel uncomfortable, you're triggered by anything that we're saying, we do have support services here for you from the VA. Charlotte, if you could, there we go, one support service there. We have a few clinicians in the room. Also, our panel, they're really good about what they do as well. So if you need to step out for a moment, feel free to do so at any time. At this time, I would like to invite Colonel Jenkins to give a welcome statement to everyone in the room.
I don't think I need this microphone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, okay, all right. We military, so we sound off in our military voice from time to time. There it is. There it is. Hoorah. I hear hoorah, but on the Army side of the house, we say hoorah. It's all good. One team. So, as Darcy stated, I am Colonel Arthur Jenkins. I am the Director of Delaware County Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. Ostensibly, we service our 35,000 plus veteran population through making them aware of the benefits they may be qualified for as a result of their distinguished service. And we, my veteran service officers, work the claims, whether it's health benefits, financial benefits, for instance, in the way of the real estate tax exemption for those who are rated 100% service disconnected, but truly that's the foundational aspect of the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. We have endeavored in my 9 months in the position to do and be and think so much more. What is it that we can do for such a vast veteran population and their family members? I'm always careful to point that out as well. We think oftentimes of the veteran proper, him or her, but they come connected with a support system known as their family, and we should always think of them as well. As it pertains to what we will delve into today, as was stated, this is a heavy topic, but that is no reason for us to shy away from it. In fact, I would submit that that's all the more reason for us to lean into it through an integrative approach. I want to salute all of you for the wonderful things that you all do, because only collectively can we really step into the constant challenge that is suicide and suicidal ideation. But there is no question that when we unite based on our different talents and the different angles that we tackle that program from, we can be most effective. So I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you for enabling me to have just a few words. Good to see everybody, and let's be enlightened. Let's strategize based on what we're enlightened by, and let's save some lives. Hoorah! Hoorah!
Thank you, Colonel Jenkins. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. So we are here today to come together, combine our community resources so that we can tackle the issue of suicide in the veteran community. Needless to say, suicide is a ripple effect. It happens to one person. It pretty much happens to us all. And what we want to do is minimize or reduce the risk factors that are known. We also want to raise awareness. We're going to discuss a little bit of the VA annual report, the data that came out in 2023, November. And I believe most of you here are from the community. Anyone here a veteran in the audience? All right, so right now. And we have a wonderful panel here for advocating suicide awareness and prevention. We're gonna play into that. So what we want to do is we want to get the veterans who come back to the community, come back to us. We want to get them connected to any resource they need immediately, ASAP, as soon as possible. Because the quicker we get this done, the quicker we get them connected, the more lives that we can prevent from dying by suicide. I'm going to have the panel introduce themselves. We're going to start from this, we're going to go on down.
Good morning. My name is Roxanne Robinson. I am an outpatient therapist, and I'm also a private practice therapist as well. Thank you for having me.
And what branch of service, Ms. Roxanne?
Army, of course.
Good morning. My name is Claire Martin. I am a suicide prevention coordinator at the Coatesville VA, and I am a licensed clinical social worker.
Oh, thank you so much, Claire, for being here. Thank you for being on the panel.
My name is Reverend Ben, and I am the outreach leader for CompeerCORPS. I'm going to be graduating this year with my master's in psychology and professional counseling, and I hope to go on and get my PhD.
All right now. All right, yeah, no, absolutely. We want to give that support there. First question, Ms. Roxanne, to you. So why are you here today advocating for suicide awareness and prevention?
Well, I'm here because, I am a veteran, so I can understand both sides of the spectrum. Having been someone who, can you hear me back there? Okay. Having been someone who has exited the military and also being someone who works with veterans and also just people in suicide prevention, I thought it was very important for me to be here just to share, from a clinical standpoint as well as a personal standpoint.
And Ms. Roxanne, that's also why I'm here. And that's actually how you and I met in the community. I had no idea when I reached out to you that you were a veteran, but that's one thing that connected us together and brought us closer. And you helped me with my son and my family, and we really appreciate you. That was a year ago. And Claire?
Yes.
Same question. Now, why do you believe it's important for you to be here to advocate for suicide awareness and prevention?
Well, first of all, I'm here with my partner, Sade Westcott. And we both like to go out in the community because we feel the more people know, the better they're equipped to handle situations if they find themselves in a suicidal situation or if a family member, a friend, coworker is in that situation. So I think the more education everyone has, the better off we'll all be. Education is power. I get it. Let's empower people. Reverend Ben.
I'm here, number one, because I care. People who work in our field, we care. If you're in this field and you don't care, you should not be in this field. I'm here because I'm also a veteran. And I'm a veteran who has been on both sides of the spectrum. I was that suffering veteran, okay, who saw doom and no tomorrow. But I learned that there's hope. That's why I'm here.
Now, the 2023 National Veteran Suicide Prevention Annual Report, it came out back in November of last year. So we're a little bit behind in discussing the topics here. But 2025 is not here yet, so we still have time to strategize, to come together, and save some lives in the future. We have time to save a life today, save a life tomorrow. But what we're going to do is use the data and the numbers that we are given to kind of open our minds to see what can we do immediately, almost today, to change those numbers in the future. As I stated, 2025 is not here yet. We still have time to save lives. You'll get a copy of, I'll email a copy to you all who's here. Your email is on it. You'll get a copy of the PowerPoint. And we're going to talk about some key findings in the report. First, in 2021, suicide was the 13th leading cause of death for veterans overall, and the second leading cause of death among veterans under the age of 45. Raise your hands if you were not aware of that finding before mentioned in this moment. Raise your hand if you were not aware. And just like that, we raised awareness, more awareness with the hands that are raised, even if it's just a few. You all can take that with you today For those of you who were aware, do you know any veteran who is under the age of 45? Besides me, right? Because look at me. So you know of a veteran under the age of 45. So that may sit with you because you know of someone, which makes it a little bit more personal. Now, Reverend Ben, under the age of 45, so we're talking veterans age 18, as young as 18. And what age did you join the military?
17.
17. Anybody else 17 when they joined? Cool, yeah. 17 when I joined. So take us into 17-year-old Reverend Ben and being in the military. Did you ever think that you would die by suicide?
Never crossed my mind.
Never crossed his mind. Anyone else think that, well, there's a chance that I'll be exposed to these risk factors going in at the age of 17, and maybe at 18, I won't be here. I tell you what, when I was 17, I was invincible. You couldn't tell me nothing was gonna kill me. Can't tell me that today, though. I'm afraid of everything. But they have their whole lives ahead of them. You were 17 when you joined, and here you are today. I was 17 when I joined. That was 17 years ago, and I'm still here today. And Ms. Roxanne, so you've worked in the community with the youth, young people, 18, my son included. Yes, I have a teenage son, if you can believe it. So Ms. Roxanne, from your experience, could you tell us a little bit about how young people, specifically young people, how they respond and deal with trauma?
Oh God, where do I start? That's such a loaded question. I think young people today, because of social media, technology is a great influence on them. So when I was coming up, because I want to tell my age, almost 49 years old young in 2 weeks. But when I was coming up, we didn't have a whole lot of, social media. We didn't have anything like that. So as a result of that, they're more geared towards listening to things like that as opposed to parents. The parental role in the family has changed drastically, where kids are not necessarily sitting down at the dinner table getting information or wisdom from their parents like you and I did. So it's incredibly harder to kind of influence them unless you are someone who is savvy, who can put material or information on a social media platform that may or may not, speak to them. That's been difficult. Even having them come into, therapy sessions. I had one teenager that was suicidal that literally came into the office every week for about 5 weeks and said absolutely nothing for 50 minutes. And I was patient enough because I understood the severity of the need to have the trial there and to talk. And on the 6th session, he verbally vomited on me, and I was okay with that because I understood my mission, and that was to get him to a place where he understood that you don't have to battle the toxic thoughts by yourself.
Absolutely. And I want to speak to that, if I may, very quickly. The mission. You understood your mission. I did. You're a civilian now, so your mission is changed, is new. So you have a purpose, you have a meaning in the community. What most people would have to understand when we use that term mission, when a veteran used that term mission, they're still indoctrinated, right? So it's still in their minds that they have meaning and that they have purpose. So when you come into the community without meaning, without purpose, but you're still indoctrinated in your mind, you still have the mindset of someone in the military, you're using the language, those terms, even the way you may walk, you have to ask yourself, what am I doing here? The mission has changed. Where do I go? I was grateful to have found someone such as Miss Roxanne out in the community to help me. Couldn't imagine, as I said, being 18 years old and contemplating suicide. I just wanted to show you this slide here. This is from the report. It's on page 14 of the report when you guys get a chance to get the report. I just wanted to briefly show you. It's kind of small, but you'll get the gist of it. So this dark blue line down here, these are the veterans' suicide deaths from 2001 to 2021. So it's 2 decades, right? 20 years. This is the civilian side, 9 veteran adults. Same year, 2001, 2021. And in 2001, we had 6,000. Fast forward 2 decades, 6,392. Line looks pretty steady, but if you look up, this line, it almost doubles. You go from 2,300, to, I'm sorry, yeah, 2,300 to 2,000, I'm sorry, 23,000 to 40,000. It doubles, but this line stays steady. And when I looked at that, the first time I looked at that, I said to myself, man, we've never gotten below 6,000 in 2 decades. So what's this post 9/11 era, right? Post 9/11 era. We've never gotten below 6,000. Nothing in me ever said, Darcy, look up. There's another line there. There's another population of people out there who is drastically impacted by suicide, almost at a rate that is increasing drastically. So I thought to myself when I said, we're not making any progress. We're not below 6,000. Where's the progress being made? When I opened my eyes and I compared the two, and I saw that this number doubled over the last 2 decades, this number did not. I changed my mind. We're doing something right. We are doing something right. And I wanted to sit back and really think about that. And I said to myself, if I can get a few of my colleagues, some community support, and other veterans together in one room to figure out what it is that we are doing right in the veteran community, and just on a community level in general, could we take that community solution and apply it to a societal issue? Can we do that? At first I said, girl, no, you can't bring all these people together. They don't know, they don't know who you are. Nobody's gonna want to join forces with you. But then I thought about it again, and I said, if I get the right support, if I call in the right people, and we connect those dots, we can do it. So Reverend Ben, what are we doing right?
Well, we're having a conversation.
We are having the conversation. That's the answer I was looking for. We're having the conversation. Ms. Roxanne, I believe you said it earlier. You said it's a hush-hush, a silence. And Claire, I believe you said what you and Sade do, you guys go out into the community. We're gonna bring the conversation to you. And that's what we're doing right. Because there's a stigma that's out there. And once I said to myself, and also my young son and my wife here, I said, if we break the silence, we can break the stigma. And that's just where it begins. But we have to come together. This is the age range. So the red line here is 18 to 34, gray, 35 to 54, light blue, 55 to 74, dark blue, 75 plus. When I see that, I see that's all adults. Suicide doesn't escape many people. I'll say it again. When I was 18, I felt invincible. When I was 34, I did not. And even now, I still feel, when I look at this, that I'm not out of the woods. But then I see, I don't just leave it at myself. There are others who are not out of the woods. How can we help them? A hero is someone who heals their wounds and shows others how to do the same. And that's what we are going to do. So Ms. Roxanne, when you see those lines, and you see the older age groups, 55 to 74, 75 plus, I mean, you got You got to be happy to make it that far in life, just to take it. And where does that sit with you? You say you'll be 49 years young in about 2 weeks.
Yes, I was reminded this morning getting up. I think for them, that population, my father just turned 76 years young yesterday. And one of the things that I observed, because he also is a veteran, one of the things that I constantly observe with my father is his mindset, his frame of mind. He tells people all the time I'm his therapist, and I'm not. However, I think if you sustain any type of trauma, he comes from an era where they didn't talk about it. You know, it was considered a sign of weakness. And he's carried that for decades. And so as a result of that, he has significant anxiety. He also deals with just daily stress, you know, trying to persuade him to have more positive thoughts and to really sit with his negative emotions, and even just to talk about just a simple trauma that he sustained in the military. It's incredibly difficult. And so with that population, a lot of times they will not seek help because they're not accustomed to it. This is kind of like something new. It's a nuance, you know, among younger people. But again, there's a challenge with each demographic group. So that's what I would say for me. It's been my experience, a challenge with the older population.
Well, thank you, Ms. Roxanne, for that perspective. Usually when I think of the older population, I think of, you know, my parents and how even to this day, there are things that we just don't talk about. And Claire, what challenges are you having when you go out into the community and you start the conversation?
It depends. Usually the events that we go to, the people are very receptive to it because they're there for that reason. Sometimes if we go to a place where it's not specifically for suicide, you know, they might pass by the table, and we try to just give them just a basic pamphlet, you know, or a gun lock. Because if you can just have that little bit of education and safety, you know, because a lot of people have firearms, but just, you know, maybe did you ever think of locking your firearm if you have mental health issues? Or so I think just being out in the community, you catch some people you would not have caught otherwise, which is good.
And there's the prevention part. We raised awareness with the few of you who were unaware of the statistics. And then you hear the prevention part. Education plus safety equals prevention. Claire and her team, they're going out. They're not waiting for someone to pick up the phone and call them. They're not waiting for something to happen and they have to intervene. Oh, the intervention is, I don't want to downplay intervention because it has helped a lot. But what we want to focus on is the prevention part. Mm-hmm. Reverend Ben, I remember you and I had a conversation not too long ago. I said to you, Reverend Ben, one of the hardest part of my days is deciding when to get out of bed. And I remember you said to me, well, Darcy, that's a lot of people's problem, but they still get out of bed. They still have a purpose. And you told me I had a lot of life to live. And I thank you for that. As I think about that every time I step out of bed, I have a lot of life to live. You've told us you've seen many things. Have you ever seen such a population of people who are suffering in silence?
No, I haven't. And it's alarming to me, which has inspired me and my team at CompeerCORPS to be a light in dark places. Because it's in the darkness where our veterans, some of them are in darkness and they don't know. So we have to be a light to them and let them know that they do have purpose. That's what we need to do.
Because they do. Every veteran has a purpose. When I was preparing for this, some days I locked myself in my room and watch a bunch of World War II documentaries, you know, mm-hmm. because that's just, what I do. I have a fascination with World War II history. There's a reason for that. Because when I was younger, the first time I ever seen or heard the word veteran, it was always associated with World War II. And, these guys were very special. And, we saw someone with a veteran hat on and they would walk down the street. I remember, thank you for your service, and they were like praised and they were honored. Little old me is just like, oh man, like what did that guy do to deserve, just strangers just walking up to him and shaking his hand and thanking him for what did he do? So of course, I learned about World War II, and as I sat and my poor wife. And as I locked myself in a room away from my children and everyone, I listened to a message that came from, his name is Norman Corrin. He was a radio announcer. And on August 14th, in 1945, when the war was over, he came over the radio to give a message of victory. As I was listening to his message, I realized that his message was geared towards not the veterans themselves, but to the community and the family members whom they were going back to. And I'll borrow his words. He says that it's a new homecoming for veterans. The men who piloted the planes that saved us and went on those missions, they're coming back home to run errands for a company. He said the men who drove the tanks are coming back home to drive lawnmowers. He said the men who were on those battleships are now trading those in for cruise ships and vacations with their families. And the men who landed on the beaches of Normandy are now coming back to the sandy beaches of California. And when he said that, I looked up. I said to myself, that's part of people's everyday life, to mow their lawns, run errands for their company. But what does that do to someone whose mission it was to fly those planes, whose mission it was to drive the tanks, to win the war, to come back home to an ordinary life? Does it diminish the purpose and meaning that they have? Does it amplify it? Like, hey, I drove a tank, look, give me that lawnmower, you know? But he said at the end, when the veteran returns back home, a new homecoming to the community, you have to be ready to receive them. And I wanted to say to myself in that moment, dang, when I came back home and my mom was standing there ready to receive me, she was the same with me. She didn't change, but I did. You know, come on, girl, don't talk to me like that, Mom. I'm a U.S. Army soldier, you know. But I'm not, right? I'm home. I'm little old Darcel now. I'm somebody's child again. So Reverend Ben, when I heard that, you were, you know, one of the first people I thought of, because I remember you saying that you were in the Navy and then the Marine Corps.
I was a Navy corpsman attached to the Marines. I actually joined the Navy because I didn't want to be on the front line, but I ended up anyway. Okay, and that's true. And my job was to, I was trained to, sew up eviscerated bowels, work on sucking chest wounds. These are combat injuries. That's what I was trained to do. They called me Doc, okay? And I was a very important man in my unit. But when I came home, I got a job driving an ambulance, and I was nobody but a transporter, just like she said. And I did go through that transition period where I was like, wow, I used to be that man.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm just no ambulance driver, okay? I can't even give nobody a needle. I can't even give nobody an aspirin. They used to come to me for all that when I was in the military. STDs and all that. I treated it all to come home to be a glorified taxi driver.
Ms. Roxanne, you found new meaning, new purpose, a new mission, but how was that transition?
Well, for me, my transition was quite different because I actually had a job in the military that translated into civilian life. And I was very strategic in doing so. When I went to MEPS and I picked my job, I decided that I need to have something because I am, have West Indian parents, and if you don't have a job, you cannot come home. So I knew that going into the military, not only did I have to have training, but I also had to have something skills sustainable enough for me to translate into the civilian sector, which is what happened. So I was trained in pharmacy, and when I came home, I went, did pharmacy, and then I went back to school and doing, therapy. So yeah, I was one of the lucky ones, I guess you can say.
We love to hear those stories. It's not often that those stories get told and celebrated, having a smooth, easy transition.
I wouldn't say easy. I said it was a transition.
It's
There's a difference.
It's possible to have a transition that is not so detrimental to the mind.
Right.
And you are integrated back in society.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. So Claire, do you have any thoughts on a veteran who has all this purpose, was the man, and now comes back to the community and feels as if they're no one?
Right. I have a lot of experience speaking to vets that have that particular problem. I handle the crisis line. So I have spoken over years to many veterans who loved their time in the service, had amazing purpose, amazing jobs, did so much good, and then felt when they came home that they were nobody. So I think that happens a lot. I think also there's people that have a smooth transition, that's no problem. But when they do have that problem, when they come home, and sometimes if they've been away too long, they don't even know how to talk to civilians anymore. Mm-hmm. So that becomes a huge problem. But so I have spoken to many vets that have many issues with that. Like, they would jump out of airplanes, and they would take care of the wounded. Going from that to civilian life is very difficult, I would think.
It is. I was a weapons instructor in the Army for six years. I did 12 years. My first 6 years, I was a chemical, the CBurn, the guys, it's all in all the, the mop gear. That was me at first, and I was like, I can't do this no more. So I got out of that, and I was a top shot in my unit, and my platoon sergeant walked up to me. She says, they don't want to deploy you, so they're asking if you would go to Small Arms Master Gunner School, and if you would be our subject matter expert and train everyone else who's going over there. And I said, oh, yeah, I'll think about it. And she says, well, I'm letting you know right now, it's not a question. I'm telling you, this is what you are going to do. So, she was leaving me. I said, okay. So I went and I did that. And I spent time as the only female in the class. Once I was done my training and I came back as a weapons instructor for the unit, something changed in me. I was the subject matter expert. I was someone that anyone who had anything to do with weapons, a question, needed training, they would come to me. I was very young at the time. And I was 22. So, this is before I had kids, where I was, But I said, okay, yeah, let's do this. And there's nothing more exhilarating than to have purpose that saves lives, change lives. And I took that with me. So when I had my younger son, after I gave birth to him, and things changed for me at the time. And when I disclosed to my chain of command that, hey, I think I'm depressed. I don't know what's, I think. I didn't have a diagnosis. I didn't know. I just, said, I think I'm depressed. We keep going on these missions. We got to go to drill, and I have to leave my baby. And I was like, I didn't know what was going on. Didn't understand myself. I had a new purpose, a different purpose. I'm a mother now. The first thing they did was take my weapon. How does that look for the weapons instructor, the subject matter expert? I mean, the top shot, okay, sharp shooter, no weapon. So I said, okay. It never even crossed my mind to turn my weapon against myself. That goes against my training, right? That's how I'm trained. I'm trained to see the weapon in a different purpose. I have a healthy relationship. I have a different relationship with my sidearm. I'm trained to see it one way. I can't I hate to use the word program, but I can't, deprogram myself. I'm a robot. But yeah, I cannot unlearn what the purpose of it is. But they did. They took away my weapon. Right there was the first time I ever felt like I was nothing, like I didn't have a purpose. That was my purpose. And we just went over this. And this brings me right back into my next topic. Among U.S. adults who died from suicide in 2021, firearms were more commonly involved among veteran deaths than among non-veteran deaths, 52%. I told you I was a weapons instructor. It never crossed my mind to turn my weapon against myself. I had a different relationship, a healthy relationship. The Reverend Ben, you and I were just talking about Mainline Armory. Greg Butler, he's a veteran. He owns an armory. And not only does he own an armory, but he has event space there. So what do you think about encouraging veterans to change their relationship with firearms in order to prevent those deaths?
My training consisted of my weapon was my best friend. My weapon had a name, and I carried a 45 and an M16. Okay, that was the first time in my life I carried a gun. Mind you, I was 17 when I went in the military.
Okay.
I saw guns on TV. I grew up in Philadelphia, so I knew there was some shootings going on, but back then it wasn't that bad. It wasn't like it is now. So guns weren't that prevalent. So to me, the gun was a sign of my manhood. I was 17, and back home, if I could just twist a little bit, when I was growing up, you had to be 21 to drink. When I was in the military, I was a man. I mean, there was no showing your ID to get a drink. Everybody could drink. Everybody could just party, and they stressed it, you know. And so the thing with the weapons is to have that weapon, relationship with that weapon, just like my job in the military, to come home and somebody take that away from you, something you put years into. This is who you are. And then you come home and they say, no, you're not that anymore. Getting back of the line. That's the hurt piece. And I think that's what's happening in our society today. And a lot of our veterans are experiencing that, but don't know what they're experiencing. So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
And we're going to keep on with the conversation. Claire, you say you pass out gun locks. Just randomly pass them out? Or do you ask folks, do you own a weapon at home? Is it unsecured? You just pass them out?
We ask them if they need it. Sometimes they think they're bike locks. And but it's great because a lot of times someone will be there, but they need one for their father. So we can even outreach to people that aren't there, which is great. So we really, really try to educate about firearm safety because that is the #1 cause of death by suicide in veterans.
Absolutely. Ms. Roxanne, I know you're, you had to deal with my teenager and his gun stuff. So, so when we talk about firearm safety, all around for you, it's on both sides. It's with, making sure that we don't have people turning their weapons on themselves, but also with the young folks who are out there turning their weapons on each other. So firearm safety, would you agree, is all around?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a firearm as well. It's well secured. My children don't know where it is in the home. They don't have access to the code. And I do that on purpose because I do have one child that's very inquisitive, my youngest. And I just do that for safety. I don't want him to hurt himself. But I also have someone that I'm accountable to in the event that anything was to happen and I felt at any moment that I was even, thinking of that. I have an accountability partner that automatically reaches out. I can reach out to that person to say, hey, this is my thoughts, this is what I'm thinking. So I'm well connected, in terms of making sure that I have all of the stations covered. But young people nowadays, I think they're just getting stuff from anywhere. Their friends are entertaining guns and they think it's cool. And like Reverend Ben said, it's a staple of manhood. And so they're not understanding, I'm saying young veterans coming home. These are young veterans that perhaps may have gotten discharged early, med boarded, whatever the case may be. And so they come into, especially if they're of a lower economic status, socioeconomic status, they come home and instead of them dealing with their traumas, they're resorting to gun violence and, also suicide by guns.
That's tough to deal with on both ends. As I stated, I think about that all the time. I think about partnering with others in the community who are they own a range or they're instructors or anything of that type of nature where we can go out and to educate on firearm safety and kind of retrain those who believe that the firearm is anything other than something to protect the life. Because that's how I see it. Reverend Ben, you said it, it was my best friend. It wasn't there for any other purpose. And even today, when I see a firearm, or I go to the range and I see firearms on TV, they excite me in a different way. It's like, ooh, look at that bad boy, I don't have those thoughts of using it to take my life. So while we're still on the topic of firearms, just wanted to show you this diagram here that's in the report. It's on page 27 of the report. So the firearm suicide rate among veteran men was 62.4% higher than for non-veteran men. You got 72%, that was on the slide before, 72% of veteran suicides were by firearms in 2021. Veteran firearm suicide from 2001 to 2021 increased by 5.7% increase. Firearm ownership is more prevalent among veterans than non-veterans. As we all stated, you can almost count on a veteran owning the firearm. 1 in 3 veteran firearm owners store at least one firearm unlocked and loaded. What do they call it, Reverend Ben? At the ready, on the hip. When I see those words, that's what I think, on the hip.
Can I elaborate on that?
Yes, of course.
I mean, a veteran is trained to be ready. And there were no gun locks in the military. When we were in the field, we had BFAs, blank fire adapters during training. But during actual contingencies, there was no gun locks. So you had to draw your gun, unlock it, and then use it. And I believe a lot of people have that concept now, like be ready to draw. Be the first to blast and be the first to last. That's what Tupac said. So people want to be ready, because the gun culture that we live in today is off the chain. Every day you watch the news, there's shootings here, shootings there. And 9 out of 10 times, the person that shot the person didn't have a license to have that gun. And you have people who don't have a license to carry a gun, who carry guns just to defend themselves. So we live in a gun culture, and no one wants to lock it up. No one wants to wait until an intruder comes into their house. Go find their gun from where they hit it at, go dig it up, find your key, unlock it, and then, where are my bullets? By that time, your home invasion is over. So it's two sides to the spectrum, okay?
One thing I always see when I go to the VA is the stress for firearm safety. I see it everywhere. I see it everywhere. And it makes me think about what you said, Ms. Roxanne, about that impulsivity. You just pick it up and just be ready to go. And usually when I see that at the VA, everywhere in the VA, I'm a little triggered. No pun intended on that, y'all. Guys, please. And I start to think about having that lock and thinking about the culture we live in and in a home invasion.
And I think it comes to, at least for me, helping them to change their perception of the relationship, the nature of the weapon. Before, when you had it, you always had, everywhere you went, if you went to a field problem, you always had to have it. If First Sergeant or, the commander found it and you did not have it on your person, you were in trouble. But when someone comes to, a professional like myself, you teach them how to have a different relationship, with the gun, a different relationship, a different perspective to say this is something that's still used as protective measures. However, it's not something that you have the responsibility to, just arbitrarily just have out, because it can cause danger, because, in society, it's a whole different role. And sometimes that's difficult to kind of get them to understand, especially the longer that they've been in the service. I had one command sergeant major, he did almost 40 years, and he was still showing up to PT, and we were like, Sergeant Major, you're retired. You got to go home. You can't stay here. And he would show up every morning. And so, we had to be kind to him, but help him to understand, you don't need to go to the arms room. You don't need to pick up your weapon. Your driver's not coming. You have to go home. So, I'm saying at that level and that magnitude of, just the routine. 40 years is a long time. Yes, it is. So, having to unwind that sometimes can be very challenging.
And you have to make sure that we try to be extremely respectful when I'm talking to a veteran about their firearm. I want to let them know I'm not trying to take their firearm away from them, but just if they're having a bad bout of PTSD, during this time, can you give it to your brother to hold? Can you give it to your father to hold? You know, we're not trying to take it away. We're just trying to be as safe as possible during this time. And, you know, you have to have respect for that because everyone has a right to have a firearm.
And Claire, I like your approach with that there because of what my experience was. I mean, just abruptly taken away from me.
Yeah.
And now I sometimes even understand now when I take my son's tablet away and he just goes he just goes off like, but mom. And but you're right, you know, we want to be respectful when we approach it because that's their property. For many of us, it's their identity. And to take someone's property or their identity, that's a threat within itself.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Roxanne, you are 100% correct when you say we want to change that perspective there. Which takes us to our next key finding here. In 2021, death rates were higher among recent veteran VHA users than for other veterans for all-cause mortality. It's just all cause. And for leading causes of death, including suicide. You use VA services?
I do not.
You do not? Are you okay with sharing any experience you've had with going to the VA or anything like that?
I would say since I was discharged in 2010, you know, I was married, so I had, you know, services through my spouse, and I didn't necessarily need. And when I got out, you know, now that I'm a widow, almost 5 years, I haven't had the need to necessarily go because I've always had health care through my own job. So honestly, I think it's just, I haven't utilized the services just basically because I haven't had the need necessarily. But I think if I had the need, I would definitely go.
Needs. That's very important, very key word, needs. Because Claire, as I understand, you're with the Coatesville VA.
That's right. And I can do a little commercial here right now. So my commercial is that even though you don't have any needs, it might be a good idea to just go and see what you're eligible for, because maybe they might have some tertiary thing they can provide. I'm not saying you need a hearing aid, but I'm saying if you needed a hearing aid, there's lots of times where it's not covered by insurance, but the VA might cover it. So my commercial is to go and see what you're eligible for, and then you can just have it in your back pocket if you ever need it.
And that's the connecting resources part. You've seen it just happen in front of you. Yeah.
Got to get that commercial in.
Reverend Ben, so when you see that the death rates were higher among, and you see my voice goes higher than the recent VA users than others, what are your thoughts?
Many veterans don't even know what is available to them. And I was that veteran who did not know till I started hanging around older veterans and started telling me, you can go to the VA hospital. Did you know that? I said, no, I didn't know that. Yeah, you can go to the VA hospital. And as a matter of fact, I got a 1:30 appointment today. But yeah, the resources are there. They just have to be educated. The veterans have to be educated on what we do have. And it's good, you know. We have professional people with all kinds of health insurance and all that. But to me, I think it's good to have a second opinion too. Okay?
It's a little pie chart here. You know, I always want to give you things in wording, then I want to put it in perspective for you here. So this is going to be on page 71 of the report. It's an 88-page report, so take your time with it. So here we have the pie is divided. 38.1% suicides from a VHA encounter. 42% no contact with the VHA. Ms. Roxanne, those numbers to you, even just without looking at the numbers, those slices of the pie looking similar in nature, and you're on the other side of the pie, and I'm on the other side. Although I have a spouse who I've had benefits through. Shout out to the spouses with the good benefits when you come through with the good benefits. I didn't have a need to go to the VA for anything, nothing. As Reverend Ben pointed out, and as Claire also gave her commercial, once I was aware that these resources were not only available to me, but that I was eligible, I've started going to the VA. And I've found the best mental health care provider ever. For me, because you know, you're still my girl, yeah, for me. And I think to myself all the time, you know, where would I be had I kept that in my mind. Oh, I don't need VA healthcare services. You know, my spouse got Blue Cross Blue Shield. You know, I don't need none of that. But I went and I was connected to someone who understood that I was different and that I didn't need to be treated like a patient because I didn't want to. I didn't want to be treated like a patient. I wanted to be treated like a person. I wanted to be treated like someone who, yes, I understand that I am having these episodes or whatever I may be going through, but I want to understand a little bit more. Why am I having them? Why am I having this experience? Reverend Ben, you said it earlier. Veterans go through things and they don't know what they're going through. I had no idea what I was going through. I thought I was okay. Quickly realized that I was not. I did reach out for help. That made it a little bit worse for me before it got better. But this is what we want. That we can prevent those deaths on this side, right? So that's 7.4 suicides per day. We can prevent those on that side if we educate and if we keep our outreach going, keep up the commercials, keep up what you're doing, Sade, and VMC, everybody. If we let the veterans know what type of services at the VA they're eligible for, we could save a few lives, even if it's just one. And any of the veterans in the house who can relate to myself and Miss Roxanne who say, oh, you don't need it, even if you go to save your own life. All causes of mortality, not just suicide. We include suicide, but that's all causes of mortality. So the VA does these behavioral health autopsies. And what they do is when they hear of a veteran suicide or when it's reported to them, they go back and they look into the life of the veteran. They take a deep dive and go look back, look into the life and see what issues they may have been having to cause them to die by suicide. So pain was number one. Health problems, increased health problems, declines in physical ability. I just said it, oh man, my sleep hygiene is terrible. Relationship problems. And Reverend Ben, what we don't see on there? We see trauma anywhere on there? No trauma. Trauma is not there. Unsecured firearms in the home. Trauma's not there. Because Reverend Ben, as I understand, about to get your PhD, educated. I've known that a few weeks ago you've taken some trauma training. So this is all under the umbrella of trauma. So how can you help us better understand how trauma plays into all of these risk factors?
The thing about trauma is it's undiscriminatory. Anybody can have some trauma. A lot of times what we do in society is we try to downplay trauma. Even in the military, there's a saying that pain is weakness leaving the body. So there's a stigma on pain. There's a stigma on trauma. We're men. We're military people. We're strong. We laugh at pain. We eat burnt babies. That's what they teach us to say in drilling. Yeah. Yes. So trauma, what about trauma? Trauma's a joke until we educate people on trauma and let them know that trauma is real. And I asked the question, why the veteran? Out of all the people in the world, why are veterans? More veterans die from suicide, 4 times more veterans die from suicide than veterans who have died in the battlefield. Did you know that? Yes. So why the veteran? Is it because we eat burnt babies? Because we are gun-ho? Wahoo, ruha, hoorah? Yeah, we're tough. We laugh at pain. We need to let people know that pain is real. Trauma is real. And it doesn't make you less of a man to say ouch.
The stigma is out there. It does exist. Desensitization is also out there to trauma. And Ms. Roxanne, you said it, the social media out there.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that too and say how a person enters into the military matters. So if they're coming from an already traumatic situation, say if they're fleeing their home, if they were not able to make means for themselves, there's always, extenuating circumstances why the person came into the military. It's not always, oh, well, I'm gung-ho about going into the military, so I'm going to go. A lot of times it's, okay, this is my last-ditch effort. I have no choice. I have nowhere else to go, so I'm going into the military. And with that being said, you have a person's childhood with their own personal traumas, and then you go into the military, and because of how we're trained, it exacerbates their trauma already. And so a lot of times, especially during basic training, you don't have time to talk about or deal with trauma. Drill sergeant don't want to hear that. You just want to get your 8 weeks or however long your basic training is and then leave. And so what happens is they begin to learn how to compartmentalize the trauma already sustained prior to military, and now you've got a little trauma when you go in, especially with the gas chamber and everything else. And then as a result of that, the person continues to compartmentalize. So by the time they've gained some rank or they've gained some years and experience, they're accustomed to saying, oh, nothing's wrong with me, I'm okay. So once they've ended their career and they come out, you have this huge bubble of trauma associated with now military trauma. If you've been to war, that's mixed up in there. It's only a matter of time before somebody comes by and just flips the switch on and you got a bomb.
Yeah, my wife calls that a compounded trauma,
Yeah.
is what she says.
Absolutely.
And I think that is very important, you know, especially when we do these types of behavioral health autopsies and we dig into the life of a veteran. If we go back a little bit further, we would probably understand a little bit more. So Claire, now help me understand a little bit more about when you have those conversations in the community with veterans. Are they mentioning anything from their time before the service?
I have not had that experience that unless I'm doing a full assessment where you go back and you do the social history, and most of the time I'm doing the crisis line, so that's kind of like
Right.
quick and dirty. And you know, so if you're doing a whole assessment, then you get that, okay, you know, they were maybe sexually abused when they were young, and then have all those traumas. And in addition, one of the psychiatrists in Philadelphia once told me that the age where a lot of people join the military, 18, that's also a very common age for a severe mental health issue to come on. So say schizophrenia, that's 18, 19, that's a common age. So if you have some person that, you know, is due to, you know, has that gene for schizophrenia anyway, joins the military, has another trauma, that, you know, that does flip that switch. So that is a very sad, unfortunate thing too. So maybe that person wouldn't even be as ill if they didn't join the military. Yeah, I don't get a lot of history in my position where I am, but I do know that many people have backgrounds, social histories that are devastating. That's before they even go into the military.
That's right. And, Reverend Ben and Ms. Roxanne, you both used the word that I use all the time, trained. That's how we're trained. It's something about the mindset of a veteran or a person who enters the military that can be trained. I've lived next door to this older gentleman for 6 years now, and I just only see him in passing, and I get his grass cut, you know, just, you know, when I get my grass cut, and he and I have never had any type of in-depth or full conversation. 6 years I've been living next to Mr. Earl. You know, one day it was raining outside, and I say, oh, you know, how are you doing today, Mr. Earl? He said, I'm sick of this damn weather. And that was the first time he ever said anything other than hi, baby girl. So I said, okay. He said, this is the type of weather that makes somebody want to go in the house and pick up their weapon. I said, okay, Mr. Earl. You know, it didn't register on me at the time. And then he says, yeah, you know, and then the next day, everybody on the block is going to be like, oh, but Mr. Earl was so quiet. He never bothered nobody. He never said anything. You know, and he's laughing, you know, while he's saying these things. And I'm just trying to get in the damn door. You know, I'm just trying to get in the doors. I ain't really, I'm like okay, But you know, once I sat down and his words rang over in my head again. I said, did he say weapon and not gun? I wonder why he used that term. Why did Mr. Earl say weapon? Why didn't he say gun? Because we call it a gun. Civilians, they call it a gun or my piece. So, you know, whatever. Last week, you know, before this, something said, go outside. Mr. Earl's outside. It's, you know, it's not raining. Go outside and see Mr. Earl outside. So I was outside. Hey, Mr. Earl. He said, hey, nice day. I said, yeah, nice day. And I said, Mr. Earl, you know, by chance, you haven't served in the military or anything like that ever. And this smile just came across his face. A smile that I haven't seen in like 6 years. I've lived next door to this 6 years. And he said, I'm gonna tell you like this. I did 1 week at Paris Island, and I got the hell up out of there. And I said, oh, Mr. I never knew that. He said, I don't identify as a veteran, though. He said, because I didn't even make it through the 1 week, but he said he had to spend that time on Ellis Island as he had to be processed out. So he said he still had to go through the motions, although he realized that it wasn't for him. And he told me why. He said because his drill sergeant rolled up on him one day. And he said, he said he was 19. He said rolled up on him one day and told him, I'll kick you. And he said, and I could see Mr. Earl, walking and doing about face and everything. And I'm looking at him. There was something in me. I felt, once he used that term, I felt that he was different. Did you just have those conversations? They could be really small conversations. And Mr. Earl says, I turned around, I told that drill sergeant, I'm from North Philly. You gonna back up off me. And he said, well, baby girl, from there, my military career. So I said, oh, okay. I said, okay. He said, no, but I don't identify as a veteran. He said, but I understand. He said, I spent about 6 weeks until I was completely discharged, but some things still stick with me. He said back in 1986, he was 19 years old. He said some things still stick with him, but he could not get past that part where I say we could be trained. I had the same experience. My drill sergeant, she rolled up on me. We're from Philadelphia. First thing I did was throw my hands up. She said, girl, what you doing? And I said, oh man. She said, how old are you? I said, I'm 17, drill sergeant. And she said, oh my God. Another 17-year-old from Philadelphia. So I get it. But there was a part of me that respected that authority. There was a part of me that still wanted to have that encounter with my drill sergeant. There was still a part of me that wanted to be in the military. I wanted to be like her. Mr. Earl didn't want nothing to do with none of that. He got out. I tell you that story to say that it is those subtle details that you hear when you have a conversation with someone that lets you know a little bit more about them. And I had no idea Mr. Earl was a veteran until one day it rained and he used the word weapon instead of gun.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Did anything that Mr. Earl said in that initial conversation about the rain give you like red flag? Should I go check on him to see if he's suicidal or?
Oh, I do. I do. I check on Mr. Earl. We get Mr. Earl's grass cut. Okay, I make sure everything. I do. I check on him, especially on those rainy days. Mm-hmm. I'm outside or I have the window open with my coffee, and I'm checking for Mr. Earl. And when I do run into him, and I say, hey, Mr. Earl, he says, you seem to enjoy the rain. You seem to like it. But he doesn't know that I'm out there checking on you. I'm not out here because I enjoy being in this cold rain. But he doesn't say that anymore on rainy days. He gives me a smile. Now that we've both identified that we have something deeply in common, that connection, that connectedness is there. But yes, absolutely, you're right, I heard this. But no, to save his life. So, all right, we're coming up, this is the end of our presentation. And I thank you all for being such great audience members and being engaged and, just being here overall to get through this heavy discussion here. Suicide is preventable. We understand that. We probably now know that. And suicide prevention requires a public health approach, combining clinical, we have our clinicians in the house, community-based approaches as well. We got community members in the house. And we understand that together, everyone has a role to play in suicide prevention. And why is my photo up here? All right.
So cute.
So cute. Oh,
so cute.
That's back when I was a young Thundercat. That is not no more. But why is my photo up here? My photo was up here because I'm up here. And I am up here because I am not in any of those numbers that I've showed you up here today. I've not fallen into those ranks, Reverend Ben. Back in 2016, when they took my weapon away, they took my identity away, took my meaning, took my purpose. And at the time I had a new baby, 2-year-old boy. They almost took him away. They take my baby now, right? I was left with only one thing. I didn't have no hope. You talking about hope? I had no hope. I was left with only my life. And no one's going to take that from me except for me. I'm in control. I don't control any other aspect of my life, right? They done did that. They done took my control away from that. But I'm in full control of this. So I was left with nothing. And I attempted to take that life. I didn't pick up my firearm because, of course, I'm trained differently. It's not what that's for. But I picked up that bottle. I didn't pick up the phone and dial 988, or back then it was a different number. I didn't pick up the phone and do any of that. I picked up the only thing that I thought would be the answer to my problems, to end my pain. And as I sipped and sipped and sipped and sipped and sipped and sipped, I could feel my breathing slowing down till it slowed drastically, and what I thought I was taking was my last breath. That was the most peace I had in years since being processed to be medically discharged out of the military at the time. Fortunately, I didn't have to go that way. I got help, so it was over, right? I thought it was over. Until about 36 or so hours later, I woke up, and I couldn't believe it. I woke up in my own vomit on my bathroom floor, and that's when I said to myself, nobody's gonna help you except for you. You need to get up off this floor. I checked my phone. I was supposed to go to drill that weekend. I didn't show up. Guess what? Not a missed call from anybody. Not a text message from no one. My chain of command, my platoon sergeant, the same one who she wasn't there. My battle buddies, they wasn't there. I was left alone by myself. And that's when I decided to help myself. So I did just that. Cleaned myself up, reached out to the community members, and I got some help. And since that day, I decided that I had new meaning, new purpose, a new mission. Why did I survive? Why did I wake up? Why am I still here? Why am I not in those numbers? Because I was able to find support services that not only cared about me as a veteran, but cared about me overall as a mother, as a Black woman who was taught to just take it all in stride. Strong Black woman, right? Not to talk about it. And for me, I said to myself, I want to show up for that person. I want to show up for me. I want someone to be thinking about me, because now that's all what's on my mind. Sometimes I can't sleep at night. I think about that person, that veteran who is alone, may be hopeless, no identity, no connection. I want to save that person's life, give them new meaning, give them new purpose, and let them reclaim their lives. I reclaimed my life. I reclaimed my identity. I'm standing in front of you today, and I am asking the same thing that the VA is asking in that report, a call to action. Let's come together. Let's promote firearm safety. Let's implement our community focus. Let's continue to express readiness and crisis intervention in the house. Where you guys at? All over, right? You got to tailor some of the prevention needs and strategies. Everything is not one size fits all, because suicide isn't one size fits all. There isn't one cause. There isn't only one cause, so there isn't only one solution. Everybody is a little different. Get to know them. We have any non-clinical support teams in here? There we go. Because not everyone who dies by suicide has a mental health diagnosis. So there's something there. There's something you can do there. Increase access to mental health utilization. Remember the commercial? I didn't need it, but I did need it. I needed it. Integrate suicide prevention within medical settings to reach all veterans. We talked about that. We want to bring those on that other side of the pie. We want to bring them to this side. Give them a slice of this pie. That's it. All right, lunch is in the next room. I do want to thank Valerie from Voice and Vision, Olga from CompeerCORPS. We'd like to thank our panelists for being here today, taking the time off. Thank you so much to Colonel Jenkins. Thank you all for being here. And thank you to my spouse who took over the PowerPoint for me, but she's been very supportive in all of this. And Valerie, if you wanted to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We want to thank Darcel, Darcy, our girl here. I met Darcy through, I don't even know how I met you, but she came on the podcast. And I'm like, oh, I love her. And she said, oh, I want to do something with veterans for Memorial Day last year. So we did, put together a panel and got some speakers about honoring military purpose. Why do we join? What's the purpose of being in the military? And so then she was talking, I really want to do something about suicide prevention. And so we said we have to do it. And, you know, one thing that we like to do at Voice and Vision is have difficult conversations. When we had, after George Floyd and some of the other things happened, we put together a group that we were half people looked like me, half people looked like Darcy, and we had conversations. What do we do? What do we say? How do we act? Tell us what we need to know. And so we want to do that about suicide too, because one is too many. One death is too many. And I know you all have keys out there too that maybe we didn't hear. And if you have some, you can shout them out right now. Is there things that we didn't cover that you might say, hey, think about this? Yes, what?
We serve both Philadelphia and New Jersey, and I think we're going to start hitting Delaware. What we do is we promote utilizing horticulture. I came in not knowing anything about plants, and I'm on the advisory board. But it's okay because I started knowing absolutely nothing, called it dirt, got yelled at a whole lot of times, and now call it soil. But the nurturing that the plants and healing of the soil that can do for one's soul. We do forest bathing. We go into the community that is embellished with poverty, and we bring them a sense of purpose for themselves. On the other hat, I am also starting a business called the Unconventional Coffee House in New Jersey. It's a therapeutic coffee house. I just got my degree, my master's degree, graduated Thursday. Thank you. Took my licensing exam a little early, so I'll be talking to you later. But the purpose of my coffee house, it's 2 words, is I want to create a home space for veterans. Come in, grab a coffee. I don't care if you haven't showered, but I want you to come in and hopefully I can keep you safe for that day. And also bring tools to put into your mental health toolbox to promote that unconventional way of handling mental health. So that's 2 of the organizations I'm about, and I'm excited to learn more about you guys.
My name's Brian McCauley, and I am the director of a first responder and veteran treatment program called HEROES. We have 3 locations in Phoenixville, Philadelphia, and Cherry Hill. I have what you call the trauma trifecta. I went from the Marine Corps at age 17. Out. We're on the same team now. Even my Navy friend here. Then I went to the fire department, then I went to the police department. And, I remember getting up from my couch and running down the street at full speed after charging through my front door and just thinking to myself, why am I doing this? I later learned that was panic attacks and PTSD. But I drank my way through those years until I was 38 years old, and as an active duty police officer, was arrested for DUI. And it brought me to a crossroads in my life. I can tell you I know what the end of my gun tastes like. For whatever reason, I'm still here to talk about today. But yes. So when I started running these programs, this is my 2nd program. I'll have my master's degree in December. if I don't lose my soul in the meantime. But you know, this program for me isn't a business. I'm not a marketer. What we're trying to do is I want people to get where I am today, and get through those dark times and everything like that, and get them through whatever it is. Trauma, yeah, that's the umbrella. Get them through that trauma, or mental health, or substance use disorder, and just show them a hope. But we can't get there unless we sit down and talk. And I'll end with this. On a Wednesday in April of 2022, I talked to a veteran who had come through my program, and he said, "Man, things just aren't happening as much as I wanted them to. You know, I thought my kids would come back around when I got sober and all this other stuff." And he said, "How do I prove to people I changed?" And we had a long talk about it. Matter of fact, it was about an hour-long talk. I was driving, and we agreed it was about doing the next right thing and rising above. And that was a Wednesday, and he killed himself on Sunday. And I learned through that. I tried to make it about me, you know. What I missed, what could I say? And I learned that there is nothing, because he was talking about the future. And I remember the last thing he said to me is, "You mind if I call you more often? Because I got something out of this call." And I said, "Me too. I got something out of this call too." But it was at that time that I never wanted to feel that again, or at least in my power, right? So I had to relearn everything I didn't know about suicide prevention. I have to be present at everything like this to learn just a little bit more. And I got a whole page of notes today. So thank you for that. And other than that, come see me, give you my card. I never say no for helping. And I appreciate everything you guys did today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. Are you all together? We are. Who would like to speak? Or all of you? Oh, okay.
How you doing? My name is Ebenezer Adiemi. I am a corresponder. Karen and I are correspondents for CERT, Crisis Intervention Response Team. Michelle and Laura are part of the follow-up team. Karen and I basically ride shotgun with the Philadelphia Police to people in crisis situations and help them out, connect them with services and stuff like that. And we're on the front end. Laura and Michelle on the back end. After they get 302'd, after they sign themselves in, so forth and so on. And I'm a Navy vet, by the way. I don't want to overlook that. But yeah, we basically like to help people, and we thank you for your presentation today. It gives us more tools for our toolbox to help folks. So.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question?
No problem.
Did you say you ride shotgun with Philadelphia Police?
With the Philadelphia Police, yes, ma'am.
Is that scary?
It is. I mean, we're out there, we're vested up, head on the swivel, never a dull moment.
Wow.
But we enjoy it.
That sounds scary.
Yeah. The program was inspired by the Walter Wallace incident.
Yeah,
Right. So we're all for a kinder, gentler way of police response,
That's amazing.
rather than the heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Arrest people for being, having a mental health crisis.
And I will say this about the scariness. I used to be a corrections counselor in the DOC. I feel much safer on the streets of Philadelphia beside a police officer than I do working in the prison, so.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much. And there are tables out there with resources. And Tom, I hope you tell us what you're going to do in Bucks County.
So I'm Tom Ruskowski. I work for Bucks County's Department of Behavioral Health. I guess I'll stand since everybody else did too. So I do quite a few things for the Behavioral Health Department with Bucks County. One of the things that I get to do is I'm the chair for the Bucks County Suicide Prevention Task Force. I'm a veteran myself, Marine Corps veteran, wonderful few tours, Iraq, beautiful place, buy a timeshare. But one of the cool new things that we're doing here in Bucks County, actually it's kicking off in the first week of June 7th and 8th. We're starting a veterans response team. We'll be the second county in Pennsylvania. There's a handful in the country. Montco started it off a couple years ago. So it's partnership with behavioral health department within Bucks County, all the police departments, and I mean every police department within Bucks County signed off on this. Working with local mental health organizations and great partnership with the VA for this. And it's a way for peer-to-peer interaction. Actually, if you want to hear out more, I'll do a plug. We're going to be on me and Matt Allen, who's our VA director, will be on the Untold Valor podcast in the next coming months, talking about VRT. But it's basically a way of preventing veterans in crisis from the judicial system and directing them to receive voluntary help. So we're taking police officers that are veterans themselves and that have already gone through crisis intervention training and then training them additionally in some further mental health training when there is a call with a veteran in crisis, a VRT certified veteran police officer will be the responding officer to go to that veteran and have that first interaction to help that individual or their family to go get services, get help voluntarily. And the nice part about it is there's follow-up with this. So Matt, who's our VA director, will be following up with that veteran that was in crisis. If he's following up or he's too busy to follow up, myself being a veteran in the mental health department is going to be following up with that other veteran. So there's multiple peers along this way to help other veterans get help.
That's
so,
wonderful.
A lot of good things coming. And I want to touch base on the harm reduction piece for firearms. There's a great organization that's out there. It's relatively locally based called Hold My Guns. They're a nonprofit organization we've been partnering and having communications with. There is a new organization or a newer FFL, so firearm distributor, that's called Shot Tech in Bala Cynwyd. What Hold My Guns does is they partner with these FFL organizations to be voluntary firearm storage facilities. So if that veteran's in crisis, or there's somebody in their family in crisis, or somebody's getting deployment orders, or this and that, they can go store their firearm safely for a minimal fee for a set amount of time, all under the legal means and wait. So you do the background check to get your firearm back, but it's another way that somebody can voluntarily remove that harm from the situation. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for also plugging Untold Valor. You all have a flyer for that. Like I said, Darcy spoke on our podcast, and we have all people from different walks of life, different military experiences, older folks, younger, everybody, anybody you could imagine, I guess, and also bringing resources. So please tune into the podcast. You can look at all the platforms, but you can also look on our website as well. Did you want to say hi, Kira? Okay. Oh.
I just wanted to say.
Oh, Reverend Ben.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I'm the co-host of the podcast, and the reason why we have this podcast is to get the word out to veterans. So if everybody in this room wants to get a word out, you need to see me before this is over with. Absolutely. Give me your information. We can put you on the schedule. People are listening to the podcast. Okay? So get in touch with me so we can work as a team to get the word out. I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to ride out with Rideout.
I'm with Delaware County Adult Probation. My name's Keith. I'm involved with Veterans Treatment Court, Mental Health Treatment Court. I also have a caseload of mental health and veterans.
That's important.
Yeah.
That Veterans Treatment Court is amazing. How many counties have that? Philly has one, right? Bucks has them now. Pretty much everyone has them. Amazing to help veterans. So.
Delco's working on the veterans response team also.
Okay, great.
It's going to take a while.
So there you go, though. You can partner.
Hiccups at the start. Come on out, see how ours is.
Yes. And check back in, anybody that wants it. We certainly want it. I was involved in the first bringing crisis intervention team more than a decade ago in southeastern Pennsylvania, a long, long time ago. And what a difference. Thank you, everybody, for what you do in crisis. Would you like to say something again, Colonel Jenkins?
Just to salute the panel, if I may. Yes, I have had the honor and the pleasure of being on the podcast as well. I can truly say Reverend Ben, it felt like we knew each other for years. You made me feel so at home, and it was really just a wonderful discourse, and certainly appreciate all that you do. Claire, anytime that I'm in the presence of you and Sade, if it's raining outside, suddenly it becomes sunny. So appreciate you all. And full disclosure, our panelist, Miss Roxanne, she's actually my cousin, y'all. So yeah, so I'm not saying that's why she was so awesome, but you can draw your own conclusions as far as that's concerned. But really just wanted to salute all of you all, as well as the great Darcel, of course. And then finally, if drawing from Claire's strategy, if I might take 30 seconds to plug my own commercial, if you will. On June 4th, Delaware County is having its Veterans Resource Fair. I am so pleased and delighted that some of you here in the room will be represented at that Veterans Resource Fair at the Springfield Y on June 4th from 9 to 12. Heroic Gardens, Collie Turner was just in my office a couple weeks ago, as you know, and I encourage anyone to come to the office and share with me what you do, how effective you are. I promise if you come to the office to see me, I will not hide from you, and especially if you bring Hershey's Kisses. I will definitely come to see you. But thank you for the opportunity once again to be here. You folks rock. That's all there is to it. So thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Jenkins. And when we did go to his office, he spent a very long time with us. So he didn't rush us out. He listened, and we listened to him. And so it's a very good partner. So we're all partners in this room. No? You're a part of them. Did you?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sade Westcott. I am the Community and Engagement Partnership Coordinator for Suicide Prevention at Coatesville, VA. I'm responsible for developing partnerships and coalitions for suicide prevention for veterans. I partner a lot with the communities. I also work with the Montgomery County VRT, so I'm sure you saw me up there speaking and asking questions to veterans, of course. I am not a veteran, but I am a daughter of a woman veteran. So women veterans have a very special place in my heart. I have 2 brothers who served and 5 uncles who served, so I come from a military family. I'm always curious about the relationships that we can build in the community because, as we all know, suicide prevention is everyone's business, and I cannot do it by myself. I understand and I hear you about, you don't trust the VA, but I hope that, over time there's some partnership that could happen because it's not about the VA, it's about the veterans' lives that we are saving and serving. My question to the women veterans in the room is, how do we find you? But it's also very hard because we have a lot of women veterans who aren't identifying as having served in the military. While I do many coalitions and partnerships, I wanted to shift my focus to women veterans because of the increase of suicide among the women veteran community. So I would love to engage with you all about what to do, as I'm always willing, and you too, Darcy, don't just be pointing. I'm always curious about how we can work together to reach our women veterans in the community because you're not invisible, I see you. And just wanted to say a thank you and a salute to the women veterans that have served. I'll happily leave my card here. Outreach events is not just all I do. Thank you so much for showing the annual report. That is a large part of my work, especially as it pertains to the public health approach to suicide prevention, because we know that it's not just the clinical side, but we definitely need the community. So thank you all. And that's it. Thank you.
That's a lot. Thank you. Yes. And women veterans, that's a good point. Yes. Yeah. Please get in touch. And I don't see many commercials on TV either, so we want to do that.
My name is William Klein. I am not a veteran, but I work for an organization that serves quite a few veterans. I work for Mainline Deputy Dog. We train people we teach people to train their own service dogs, which is a service that a lot of our veteran students look for, particularly regarding things like PTSD. Working with someone on dog training and working with them specifically on their disability is also a really intimate environment to be involved in, and so there's lots of conversations about mental health, about how they're feeling, but it also comes up in what I think is a more welcoming environment because it involves physical work, it involves, like Darcy said, like a mission, it involves an objective. And so I think it's a very welcoming and good space for that. I wanted to be here to just find out how to better serve our veteran students, how to be a better resource to them, and I really appreciate the information that you gave me today. And I hope to, I don't have any cards, but I hope to coordinate and collaborate with other organizations, and hopefully we can be that community that you were talking about, and provide that better resource to veterans in lots of different environments.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephen Scott. I work with the Community Action Supportive Services for Veteran Families program in Booth Wynn. We cover all of Delaware County, and we help veterans who are facing housing crises, whether that's street homelessness or immediate threat of homelessness through eviction or some other means. We help them kind of solve the crisis and get back into permanent housing. As an agency, we utilize supportive and financial services to help landlord mediation or help the veteran obtain new housing. And we also collaborate with the VA on their homeless outreach team and work with them on obtaining housing vouchers. Historically, we have worked with the Delaware County Housing Authority and with the Chester City Housing Authority, because Delaware County has two. That's fun. And the quickest that we've seen the turnaround time to voucher obtaining, it has been 2 weeks. So I'm not a veteran, so Section 8 would take me years, but we can help veterans get into housing as quickly as 30 to 45 days. And especially when you combine with the voucher program that has case management, we're able to see long-term veteran housing stability. So I do have business cards if somebody is interested, but I also can answer any questions related to what an eligible veteran looks like for our program and how more in-depth do we help with those services.
Thank you.
That's fabulous. I don't know about you, but I don't want to see anybody homeless. And I certainly don't want to see veterans homeless, right? People who gave their life for us, sleeping on the street. One of our podcasts, we had a lawyer speaking, and his father started the law firm and really then focused on veterans and found a man who was under the bridge for quite some time. I don't know how many years. He had applied at VA years before and didn't know what to do. So this lawyer got a hold of his papers. I don't know, there's technical words for all those papers and stuff. I too have military in my family, but I don't know the technical words. And that man got a 6-figure settlement, wasn't homeless any longer, got a home, got a wife, got everything he needed and wanted. So there's help out there. We do have some lawyers that have spoken on our podcast. We do have other advocates that speak and all, and there are people out there really. And I'm surprised at the number of people. And now that we've done this on Tour Valor, how many veterans really don't know what's available to them. So thank you, everyone, for what you're doing, because we have a lot to do yet.
I'm just going to say something quickly, and then I'm going to hand over to Kim. My name is Angela Niven, Thorncroft Equestrian Center, and we're here because we want to be part of that conversation that you were talking about. We run programs for the veterans and first responders, and I'm going to let Kim speak about that briefly. But all of our events are scholarship for the veterans and first responders. It does not cost them a dime, and we don't ask you what is wrong with you. We don't have any. You're not there for therapy or treatment. You're there to learn to communicate with our horses, and they have the side effects. I see many faces here that have been with us, Reverend Ben, and it's a pretty amazing program that we run, and I'm going to let Kim talk about that.
Good afternoon. So I am one of the instructors at Thorncroft that not only teaches veterans and first responders, but we do also teach therapeutic riding and able-bodied riding. I came 4 years ago from the state of New York. I'm transplanted to the state of Delaware, and I drive an hour and 15 minutes every day, each way, to come up to Thorncroft. And I asked when I first started, is there a veterans and first responder program? And I was told, yeah, we used to have one, but it kind of fell apart, so we didn't do anything. I said, may I please get that? Can I take that? So I based the courses. It's a 6-week course. We do groundwork. We learn how to communicate with the horses. And then if it is a possibility, they ride the last week. I thought about doing this as veterans and first responders being people, not patients, and that the therapists are the horses. So I kind of just hang back and let the horses do their job. We do have 3 groups of vets that come from Coatesville, so we do have some interaction with that community. And I'm not supposed to say it's the best part of my day, but it is the best part of my day, by far. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here and to help. I am a daughter of a World War II veteran. And I didn't realize it till many years after my dad passed, how much he suffered. And, 4th of July, the man would lock himself in a closet. It was terrible. And it made me think about the fact that I had 2 cousins who committed suicide after Vietnam. And when I lived in New York, I was also a school bus driver. Whew, that was a job for 18 years. And our high school at one point went through 9 children in 1 year committing suicide. And so I became very involved with suicide awareness, and I took as many courses as I could. I don't have a degree, I don't have anything like that. But, and I'm gonna share this, once we had a person come in from Coatesville, and after the class was over, he said to me, if it wasn't for this, I would have done myself in.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Powerful. To know that you actually helped somebody. So I flew in last night from California. I'm on about 3.5 hours of sleep, and there was no way I was missing this today, because it's that powerful and that much to my heart.
You have your degree. You have your degree.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and thank you for what you do in that testament.
Valerie, I would like to just add, I went through the program at Thorncroft, and when I first went there, I didn't see the significance of what a horse was going to do for me. But I have found, if you're hurting, go hug a horse. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ethel. I am from the Veterans Multi-Service Center. We are basically a one-stop shop. We help homeless veterans. That's our biggest population. We help them with housing. We have a day center where they can go shower, do their laundry, get a hot breakfast, a hot lunch. I'm part of our suicide prevention team. So I deal with a lot of veterans that come in there refusing to live. There is a bridge right next to headquarters, and they say they're going to go out to the bridge if they don't get the help they need. So I tend to take them either to the VA in Philly, or some of them are veterans that don't like the VA. So we find community resources, and we are well connected with some of the community resources, and we take them there, and they treat them how they're supposed to be treated. We follow up with them after they're discharged. We help them get housing. We help them get jobs. We help them with a lot of things. We go to treatment court too, on Thursdays in Philly, or one Wednesday out of the month in Bucks County. We go and support them. We're there for them. I'm a veteran myself, and I came into working with veterans. I used to work in healthcare for 7 years. My brother's a veteran, and he's a year older than me. And I always try to help my brother out, but there was a day where he couldn't do it anymore, and we took him to Lenape Valley, the crisis center in Bristol, and I had a 302 my own brother. And now I do that with my clients. I help them out because they want the help. They don't want to keep suffering anymore, and that's a very fulfilling job that I do on a daily basis. That's it.
She says, that's it. Well, you hear the wonderful resources we have in here. Please check it out, talk to each other, share your cards. From this time, we will continue to have conversations. We thank our panelists. Thank you so much for coming, each one of you, Claire, Reverend Ben, Roxanne. Again, Darcy, we thank you again for the conversation. We appreciate you and your willingness to share your story. We have to get the stories out there. Share the story. Thank you also for your story. We have to get the stories out there because people cannot be alone. And I think what I've heard the most from Untold Valor podcasters, when we ask them for one thing at the end, like, what's your takeaway? What do you want people to leave with? Number one that I hear the most is connect to somebody. Connects to somebody. And at Voice and Vision, we do believe that we heal through relationships. You don't know if you're good or bad until you meet somebody you like or don't like, right? You meet somebody you like, yeah, you might think you're pretty good. You meet somebody you don't, oh, I need some help here, whatever. I'm going to end with one thing because I'll be retiring soon, and I'm going to throw it out there. So suicide is also, I believe, very much a spiritual issue. And so it's not, we are more than a physical and a mental and emotional person. We're also a spiritual person. And many people, that's where deep relationships come from. Deep healing comes from. When we looked at all those things that are, trauma wasn't mentioned because all those things are trauma, not sleeping, not eating, isolating, all those things that we saw up there. And spirituality, often, I happen to be a minister, and I help all faiths. Spirituality helps us to connect. We also very much support AA, the 12 steps. And you can see through those 12 steps, I've met many people who say that has saved their lives because they were able to connect with a higher power and able to connect with each other. So I'm not here to preach, but I do want to say that people can heal through many different ways. So let's not just think it's one way. Find out from people who the people are that support them. Find out if they do have a faith or a hobby, like animals, whatever it is that can help them connect to something if it's not people right away, because it's important. But we thank you for your time. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for all who served and continue to serve. You are amazing. Give yourselves a hand.